All right, today on the bench we have a 25-inch Wells Gardner K7000. This is a completely original, untouched monitor from the moment it left the factory to the moment you're seeing it now on the video. This is a complete monitor from the recent monitor haul that I got here locally. And you can see here the neck board has never been off. Original factory epoxy on there, or I don't know what you want to call it. It's not really epoxy, it's some type of glue or RTV, whatever, high temp RTV, but neck board's never been off, chassis never been out, all original caps, original flyback. This is the same as it was when it left the factory to this moment right now. Well, other than the fact it's not working. So this is the complete original tube and everything for it. And we have a label here that just says bad. Then we have another piece of tape here that says no high voltage. So giving it a good quick look over, I didn't see any bulging caps or anything obviously wrong with it right off the bat. The fuse is actually intact. The fuse is not blown. I checked it with the meter. Fuse is good. So you think, okay, it should work. However, there are a couple of issues. For instance, the vertical hold pot. This is why inspection is important. The vertical hold pot is broken. You see it cracked right there, and our horizontal hold pot is also busted. If we spin this around, we can maybe not. The vertical hold pot is also, I'm sorry, horizontal hold. It's broken. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not, all these stupid wires are in the way. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Yeah, there you go. So it's busted too. So a couple of hold pots, that won't keep it from turning on. So first thing obviously is to always verify the discrepancy. If there's not something obvious, like, okay, that chip's exploded, I know I'm not gonna even bother trying to power it on because it's exploded, but in this case, I don't actually see anything that's visibly or visually wrong with it. And this is the first K7000 I've ever seen in my life that still has the cardboard on the back side of the heatsink for the vertical IC. I've never once ever seen this intact on a 7000, so that is amazing. But anyway, so we're all hooked up here for power and video. I don't even know why I'm bothering with video because it's just out of habit, I guess, now that I realize it. But with horizontal hold and vertical hold being busted, that's not going to really produce any kind of an image. But I just want to see if it even turns on so we can duplicate the discrepancy and then kind of go from there. So with the fuse not being blown, I'm just curious as to why it says no high voltage. But let's see, 1, 2, 3. Whoa, and there went the fuse. Oh man. I don't know if we saw that, but now the fuse is definitely blown. I don't know if it caught on camera there. It went poof. I don't know if you saw that, but anyway, so now the fuse definitely went. So it did absolutely nothing. It did no sounds or signs of life at all, and then the fuse went out. So yep, obviously something's very wrong. So let's get this off the tube and see if we can figure it out. Well, I was going to cut back in here with the chassis off the tube and ready to test and work on it, but I figured I'd show how to get these neck boards off in a relatively easy manner. So again, that RTV is high temp, and it's, you know, you can't just pull the neck board off. You have to cut that RTV. Now, you don't want to damage anything, so what you want to do is get yourself a nice razor knife like this. This is an Olfa knife, and we have a nice sharp blade, and what we're going to want to do here is just kind of you don't want to slice it, you just kind of want to rock this back and forth to cut through the glue or the RTV, the room temperature vulcanization, if you will. And I don't want to slice it, I just want to kind of work it through and get it to where it's in a cut state, if you will. I'm not looking through the viewfinder, I'm looking at what I'm doing here, so sorry if it gets kind of off kilter, but and then you don't want to rock this back and forth. You kind of want to push on the neck socket itself and see if you can get it to, I may have to rock it back and forth. It may also not be cut all the way. Let's see if we can. I don't want to slice it, but I may have to. I may have to go against my own words here. Okay, that's probably going to be okay. Now I want to push on this as opposed to rocking it back and forth, but I may have to do that. Okay, it's going. Man, that stuff is on there. was able to pull a little bit off of it there, but oh, there we go, got it. And boom, perfect. Okay, there we have it. All right, there's the rest of it, just fell off. Where'd it go? There it is. All right, mission accomplished. So now let's get this off the tube and see what we can figure out. All right, so here we have the chassis off the tube on the bench, ready for testing, and let's just go over a few things and see if we can figure out what's going on here. So we'll start with removing the fuse, and this thing went kablooey in a quick fashion here, so that's gone. Let's make sure it's 2 amp. Yep, 2 amp, okay, no problem there. All right, well, the quickest and easiest way to do this is to test our HOT and our voltage regulator. Now again, as I've mentioned before, but if you're new to the channel, or this is your first time watching these videos, we'll go through everything like I normally do. So the quickest and easiest way to tell if your voltage regulator is shorted is to just go to your B+ resistor. Now it should be around 180 ohms. If we look here, it says 180. And if it reads 180, then our voltage regulator should be good. But if it reads 0, then our voltage regulator is shorted. This is the easiest method, and if we read it, 180 ohms. So our voltage regulator is, hypothetically good. The other way to do that is to go to pins 3 and 4. So we have the tall regulator in this instance. So for the tall regulator, go to pins 3 and 4. You should have 180 ohms across pins 3 and 4. Now, I consider this pin here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pin 5 has no connection, it's just 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, 180 ohms again. And if we go to diode mode, it should be 0.160, something like that. Yeah, 150. Because we're reading through the B+ resistor. If you were to remove one of the wires from the resistor, you'd have a 0.5 voltage drop because you're reading through the diode inside the regulator. So voltage regulator is good. Now our HOT. HOT is likely going to be the culprit, but let's check our HOT. We should get 0.5 voltage drop to each leg on the HOT. Again, that is our horizontal output transistor, that guy right there. And we're checking to make sure we have 0.5 voltage drop to each leg. So if we go negative lead on the right here, we should have 0.5 voltage drop to each leg. And we do. 0.475 and 0.482. Better connection probably. 0.475, 0.475. Okay, well, HOT is good. So I have to wonder if it's just simply, oh my lord, yeah. We've got a lot of bad solder joints. This is going to be a fantastic tutorial on how to clean up the K7000. So let's take a look at this gloriousness here. How close can I get? Let's see if we can use our new magnifying glass here. I got a magnifier. Let's see if we can use it. This is an experiment, so bear with me. Okay, so we've got this here. Look at this. Look at this. That is not good. I doubt that's passing any kind of current or amps or voltage through that. That is very bad. These are very bad. Those are very bad. These are just your horizontal centering pins. But look at R89 here. That is terrible. See that crack around there? Look at this one. I'm not even sure if that's even soldered in. I think that's R... What is that? That is... Yeah, that's one leg of R97. So... I don't even know if R97 is even in circuit. What if I push on that? I don't know, but that is terrible. So is this leg of R101. R101, That's not even in circuit probably. And look at this side. That's insane. So this whole power supply section, R97, R101, R89, the horizontal centering circuits, these two diodes, that is terrible. So let me show you how to fix this. What you're gonna need is a fiberglass pin, and you're gonna need to remove all these components. So let's just start by removing R89. Wow, yeah, look, I just pushed on R97, this guy here. I just pushed on it, and look at this. Oop, too far. Right here. That just cracked right. I mean, can I even just pull it out the way that, yeah, I mean, it wasn't even, this side over here is gone too. So we'll take that out. I mean, this is just destroyed from heat. No one's ever messed with this, and this is the result that you get. So R97 is out, R89 is out, these two are out so far. We'll remove R101, which is right here. So with our HOT and our voltage regulator testing good, I can guarantee it's either going to be a capacitor issue or just these bad solder joints. So, yeah. But let's take a look at everything else here. Give everything else a good look over. Flyback pins look okay. Video input headers look okay. Filter cap, R104, R103, voltage regulator, HOT. We do have a little bit of oxidation here on C38 on the width cap, but that's actually, I mean, that's not really that bad, but it's not good. So, yeah, this is insane here. This might be one of the worst ones I've ever seen, the heat damage stuff I've ever seen. One of them, I mean, it's just really bad. So what we need to do, now that the components are out, we need to remove, is that all we need to pull out? I think that's probably all we need to mess with here. Well, R96, this joint here is not very good. So let's take R96 out as well. And we're gonna clean all these up. Okay. Now, we'll start by turning my fan on here. We will start by removing all the old bad solder. And of course the pads are lifted because of the extreme heat. There's not going to be any saving that pad, I can almost guarantee you. This here is not going to be much better of a circumstance. That's completely gone. Because you don't want to add new solder to this oxidized old stuff. So you don't have to remove all of it, but you want to get rid of most of it. And these pins are probably going to fall out on me, so I'm not going to try to remove. I think those are okay. So the pads appear to have survived, except for this one here. So we got all that old solder off of there, well, for the most part. Then we want to take our fiberglass pin here, looks like this. This is actually used as a sanding pin for automobiles, but it works wonders on stuff like this. So what we're going to do to refreshen these pads is we're not going to go back and forth like this. We're just going to go in one direction like this. We're just scraping, scraping, scrape, lift, scrape, lift. We don't want to go back and forth because you can actually lift and damage the pad. All right, so that one has been cleaned up. Now we can come over here and do these. Okay, and I've scraped off the trace in between this because we're going to add a solder bridge from this point to that point to strengthen these two joints and help dissipate the heat. By having one big solder blob will help dissipate the heat and prevent this from happening again in the future. Now, I'm going to try and save this one by gently scraping it. Not quite. I may have to expose some of the trace. Just to help it get a better grip. Okay, I think that'll work. All right, now this one over here is just completely gone, as I suspected it might be, so we're gonna have to figure out something here with these. Well, I think that is going to be good enough. I think that'll work. Now we need to clear those holes out. Do that with the pair of tweezers here. All right, well, I think that's a successful palette to be able to work with here. And it's important that you do the same for the component legs, because the component legs will also be oxidized. So we want to come through here and let's grab this. And you want to scrape away the oxidation from the component leg as well. Otherwise your solder is not going to stick to the leg if it's oxidized. So we'll use our fiberglass pin here to kind of scrape away the oxidation on the component legs. I think that looks pretty good. I don't know if you can see how that should give us a nice good connection on the leg there. So we want to repeat that process with the rest of these. These are probably, this one here is not too bad actually, that's fine. These here though, this is R101, and we're going to test these out of circuit to make sure they're within tolerance before I put them back in, because if any of these burned up from not having a good connection. So if you have oxidation, that will increase the resistance on the pad and the trace, and that will increase the amperage, and that will take these resistors out. So that's why oxidation is not your friend. Oxidation increases resistance, which increases amps, which is what damages resistors and components.
So you can see how much better that is.
Now we got R97 here. This was our main culprit. And this just feels...
This is... Look how easy that is to bend that.
This just feels... I want to replace this. This should be 270 ohms. I bet it doesn't read 270 ohms. I'll bet you. I mean, I could be wrong. Let me clean off the leg here so I can get a decent connection. Okay. Any bets on what it reads? You don't want to use your fingers because your body conducts. See, look, just these two leads of my fingers are, you know, 2 mega ohms, so you don't want to touch it with your hands. But, well, look at that. 270 almost on the nose. Wow. Okay, well, that's a surprise. But these legs are pretty thin from heat damage. I mean, it doesn't take much at all to just bend it. I shouldn't be able to bend it that easily, so I want to replace this. Let me get a different R270. Hang on a second. Well, all of my spare parts, K7000s, are buried at the moment. I don't want to have to dig them all out. But on top of the parts pile was a K7000A, and the R270, or I'm sorry, R97, it's 270 ohms. The R97 on the K7000A is a much higher wattage resistor, but it still reads 270. 275, so we're going to use this one. So let's get it installed here, and then we'll test these other components. I mean, even though this tested okay, it's you know, burned up and the legs are super thin, and I just don't want to use it. So we're going to use this higher wattage one. So let's bend these in a bit, and let's make sure that we can actually put it through the hole there. Clean that up a little bit. That should fit through. Okay. Got it. All right, and that'll fit and sit just like that. Why is that on the left side? That jumper should be over here on the center. There we go. Okay. All right, so moment of truth here. Let's solder this guy in. We may be able to even bend that leg over. That would be ideal. Just like so. Haha. All right. And we'll just put a big mass right there. Fantastic. All right, can't ask for a better result than that. Now this other side here, probably going to have to somewhat do the same thing, but not quite as severe. Okay, well there you go. Fantastic. All right. Now let's hit up these horizontal position jumpers. Don't fall out. Thank you. Don't fall out. Thank you. Don't fall out. Thank you. All right. The other side of these diodes here. There's that one. And that one. That's better. Okay. Sometimes you can scrape away a little bit of the oxidation with the tip of your iron to get a better joint on there. We can hit this while we're here. Can we even see that one on camera? Yeah, a little bit. And our C38 width cap, we'll hit that too. All right, and our, looks like our horizontal pin there has a little bit of a crack around it as well. So we're gonna, this is something I reflow all the time as well. I just kind of jumper between D18 and that header pin just like that. And the rest of these seem okay, but we're going to hit them anyway. So I'm going kind of out of the scope here. I'm doing all this reflow when I should be paying attention more to what we're working on, but it's fine. Okay, now let's get back to get on point here. So that's all fixed now. Now let's grab R89 and make sure that it reads properly. It should be 3.9K, if I recall correctly. It's all gone, but 3.9K is what we're looking for, and we get 3.7. That's not going to keep it from operating. I'd like it to be closer to 3.9. I think I may actually have an extra one of these. Let's look in my K7000 parts bin here. There you go. How about that? I have, that's R104. I have two R89s. So let's see which one of these reads closer to 3.9. Come on. 3.7. 3.9. All right. Well, we'll keep these just in case. Like I said, the higher oxidation increases the amperage, which can make the resistor go out of tolerance. All right, let's put this proper reading one in. You can see there 3.9K, maybe you can't, but 3.9K ohms. So, all right, so let's get this in here. You know, I might want to put R96 in first because it's harder to get in there. Let's R96 should be 1.8K, and let's clean up. I don't think I cleaned up these pads yet on this one. Yeah, I don't think I did here. All right, so let's make sure it reads 1.8K. And it does, perfect. So let's get 96 back in here. 96, that was a good year. All right, so that one is back in. Sorry it wasn't on camera, but it pushed up the pad. But no big deal, okay. There we go. So let's get this puppy in here. Oh, you rat bastard. Fell out on me. Ugh. Why is everything so difficult? Can somebody please explain that to me? Why is everything always so difficult? There we go. Now stay there, you rotten bum, you lazy rotten bum, you. Stay there. Now let's fix this other lifted pad. Okay, there we go. Okay. I want to I'm going to scrape away some of that trace because I want to solder directly to that trace there. Okay. Just to kind of get a little bit extra security there. Clean my iron off here. I think that'll be a bit more secure. There we go. Now the other side here is fine. Alright, so that one's back in. Now let's get to R89. Okay, that's in. And I need to just tack it in place here real quick. There we go. Stay there. All right. Now, there we go. Good solid joints. That looks pretty good. Now, R101. It should be around 6K, if memory serves. I've already cleaned this one off, and we get 6.5K. That's perfect, actually. So R101 has survived. Let's get it in here. Okay. Outstanding. All right. So let's solder this guy in place. And with the cleaned off legs, it should be a breeze. And look at that. Awesome. This side over here. Let's put our bridge. I didn't clean off the trace, but I always bridge this as well. Come on. Well, you were bridged, and then it... There we go. Perfect. BEA, beautiful. Now we're going to go to continuity mode and make sure we don't have continuity from here to here. We don't, so that's fine. And we now have a repaired high voltage resistor section. Some of these look bad through the camera because of the angle and the glare, but they're not. So there you have it. That is how I repair this stuff. And you can do it the same way yourself if you want, or you can go about however you do it your way. But this is the way that I do it and the way it works for me. So we know all these components test good now. Now we can kind of go through and hit some other points that look fairly bad. Let's just take a quick perusal here. Anything that's thin or looks like it's about to break and there's not much on the pad, we'll go ahead and hit. C38 looks pretty barren on those two anyway. D14, little leg of D14 there. Let's hit our flyback pin, this one and this one. Rest of them seem all right. Video input header pins look okay. Don't really need much on those. Is that Q10? Q4. And it seems all right. Let me hit this middle one. Okay. R103, our rectifier diodes, R104. Yeah, I think that is fine for now. Okay. Well, there we go. So let's test the rest of our components here. We know R97, R101, R89, R96, those are all okay. We need to test R104, should be 15 ohms. Uh-oh, that's not good. 5.2, that is not good. 5.2 ohms, that is 10 ohms too low, way out of spec. That's why you always have to test. You can't, so if you find a problem and think, oh, there's the problem, well, dang it, that's why they all fall out. They get so hot and brittle, I just touched it with the edge of my thumb right there and it fell right off. Well, at least I can say that I worked on one that still had one intact from the factory. Maybe I can get it back on later. Anyway, so what I was saying, just because you find the problem, you don't want to assume that there's nothing else wrong. So another open bad resistor out of tolerance. R104 now, is that a tolerance? And well, R89 was slightly out of tolerance. So yeah, out of circuit, what does it test out of circuit? 15. Ah, okay. Why do we have 5 ohms across here? 8 ohms, that should not be. Something is bad. I wonder if our rectifier diodes are shorted. I wonder if somebody hooked this up to a non-isolation transformer setup. So we can put this back in. But in the meantime, well, if this had been good, I would have moved right on to these, so we would have found it anyway. But let's check D23, D24, D19, and D22. Okay, now I purposely did not check D20 and D21 because when you hook these up to a non-isolation transformer setup, it's always these two that get taken out. So let's test D20 here. Any bets? Place your bets. Here we go. As suspected. And D21? Well, there you go. We just found out what happened. Somebody hooked this up to a non-isolation transformer circuit, and that is what killed this. So, let's put D18 back. I'm sorry, not D. I was looking at D18 when I said that. Let's put R104 back in. We also, again, just because you find a problem doesn't mean you can stop testing stuff. We still need to test R103 over here as well. It should be around 3 ohms. 2.7 actually. All right, that's back in. Let's freshen it up. Oh, I didn't let the solder cool down on the other pad first before I went to the other one and fell right out. But we had plenty of solder on there this time, so I didn't need to add any more. So there we go. Now, R103 should be 2.7 ohms, so we get 3 ohms, yeah. 2.8, so all right. That is, well, I didn't check C38. We got to make sure C38, the width cap's not shorted, and it's not. But we checked our HOT, we checked, well, we can check our critical safety cap, but we know it's going to be okay because the HOT is not shorted. So we put our negative lead on this big trace here, and we go diagonal to here, should be 0.45 voltage drop. 463, same thing over here, diagonal, 468. So critical safety cap, HOT, voltage regulator, C38, R97, R96, R89, R101, R103, R104, rectifier diodes except D20, D21, everything checks okay. Sorry, I forget to always zoom out. So I think after we have repaired, so our original problem was the fact that this was hooked up to a non-isolation transformer and took out the diodes, which took out the fuse, and that's why this didn't work. So I think that was our original issue, but all of this here was a contributing factor to other problems. So now that we got all of this repaired, we can change out these two diodes. and everything tests good, so I don't see any bulging caps. There's no other immediate faults. So we'll change out those two diodes. Let's inspect the flyback for cracks and damage to it. Actually, it looks pretty good. There is a crack across here. There's a crack across there to there. There's one slightly above here. This is totally normal. I would not change this out just because of that. If it was cracked along the side, I don't know if we can even see it, but if it was cracked along the side or it had evidence of it arcing to the frame, which we don't, it's just very dirty, you'd see a spot there where it was arcing to the frame. We have no evidence of it arcing. We have no evidence of it being bad, just that little crack, which every one of these has, so it's not a big deal. This has no evidence of needing to be replaced, so I'm not going to replace it just for the sake of replacing it, because there's no guarantee the replacement would be any better. So if it's working, I don't replace parts just for the sake of replacing them. If it's working and there's no issue, then they stay in the chassis. So let's just go ahead and change these two diodes. If that works and we get high voltage, then I'll cap it. We already did the reflow, so I'll cap it, clean it up, and give it one more test, and if it's good, then we'll call it a success. I do need to actually replace still the H-hold pot and the vertical hold pot on the remote board, so I'm going to do that as well. I have to pause here and find some replacement diodes and some replacement pots. So we've seen enough of the work. We know what it takes to change those out, so I'm going to actually just kind of cut away, get the diodes replaced, get the pots replaced, and then I'll come back and we'll be ready to test it. So let's test all of our, or check all of our neck pots. Neck pots are good. Let's wipe them back and forth a bunch of times and set them all to the center for a baseline and adjust as needed when we get it working. So yeah, when you hook up these K7000s to a non-isolation transformer setup, 99.9% of the time, the rectifier diodes will go out, most notably D20 and D21, and that will take out the fuse, but it will save the HOT and the voltage regulator. That's why this all checked all okay. If it wasn't for all these burnt up pads and components, then likely we could have just simply changed out those diodes and been right back in business. So if you ever come across that, if your fuse is blowing, you want to check all these components we already checked, and I already showed you how to do all that, what they should read, how to check them and all that. Your last resort's kind of your rectifier diodes, and if those are good, then you've got something else going on. But for this, for case in point here, that's what you want to check most certainly. So, all right, I think, yeah, let me cut away, change the diodes, change the pots, and then when I come back, I'll have it on the tube with a new fuse ready to test, and we'll see what happens. Well, a quick change of plans. I got the vertical hold pot replaced and the H hold pot replaced. This one's a 10K ohm pot. It's a 500K ohm pot, so I got those replaced. But after replacing the two shorted diodes, well, here are the broken pots, and here are the shorted diodes. I wanted to show that after replacing the shorted diodes, our R104 now reads properly at 15 ohms, and D13 20 and 21 are now reading properly. So that should be it. Also, I realized that I never really showed my cleaning process. I always talk about I'll clean the chassis off camera, or I'll get it cleaned up and we'll call it done kind of thing. But I'm going to take all these component here and throw these away. So I never actually, I don't think I ever showed how I clean these. So what I do is I have a bottle here of denatured alcohol. I don't use 99%, I use denatured, because it doesn't evaporate as quickly and you're able to use it to kind of brush all this stuff clean. So what I'll do here is I'll just go ahead and apply a little on here, and we'll just zoom in here, and you just kind of go to town on this. And this will remove the flux and residue and anything else that's on here. You know, and a lot of this stuff is stained, like all this
stuff on here is stained, but this will get rid of the flux and the residue. So for instance, if we go to these 2 diodes I replaced, just kind of spray some on there and just go like this. There you go, clean as a whistle. So that's how I do all this. I like to use, like I say, the denatured because it doesn't evaporate as fast as the 99%. So it'll evaporate on you just fine, but it will stick around for a little bit longer to allow you to work it in and get all that stuff done. So, I mean, if you want to, like even down here, I just realized I missed a thing that I need to reflow. Right there. All right, so I mean, even down here where it has the factory flux, this factory flux all down here, and then the flux from me replacing this pot, you can scrape a lot of this away beforehand to make it a little bit easier on yourself, but then we can just spray a little bit of this on here and go to town. And yeah, it's not perfect, but much cleaner. So that's my method for, and I just use this all over the chassis. Like I'll just spray the whole chassis down and scrub it all down. And that's usually what I'll do when it comes to cleaning these. So, yep, it's just that easy. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Just got to have a nice good brush, and that's about it. So I think with that handled, we're going to hook this up just the way that it is. Things will never be the same. That's just the way it is. And see what we get. And if it works, we'll do a cap kit, and I'll give it a good cleaning once again after the cap kit, and then we'll call it fixed. So this time, I'm confident in saying we'll hook it up, and let's see what happens. Okay, we are all hooked back up, ready to go. We got our anode, neck, yoke, ground, you can't see it. Remote board's hooked up, power and video, so the critical 7. All right, so first time turning this on, hopefully it'll work. If it does, we'll cap it and clean it up again and call it good. So fingers crossed, it should work. Everything checked okay. Got that hanging there for some reason. So let's find out. 1, 2, 3. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put a fuse back in. Even when you count to 7, you still forget something. So let me get a fuse put in and we'll try again. So rather than sacrifice a fuse, if something is still wrong, for instance, if the flyback is faulty or there's a cap bad or something, if something is still bad that can take the fuse out, there shouldn't be, but in case there's something that is bad, rather than sacrifice a fuse, I figured we'd go ahead and just put my 2 amp circuit breaker in here. So you can see here the part number is 7277-2-2. If you want to use a different amperage, it's 7277-2-3-4-5, whatever amperage you want to use. The last number is the amperage. So we actually have a 2 amp breaker installed. So if something goes wrong, the breaker should pop. However, if we have an issue where if we turn this on and it doesn't immediately energize, I'm going to kill the power because something is wrong. Unlike last time, I didn't know what was wrong, so I left it on a little bit longer than I should have and took the fuse out. But anyway, if it doesn't immediately energize, I'm just going to kill it and we'll try and do some more troubleshooting. But let's just see what happens now that we have an actual fuse installed. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Well,
It comes on, but that was not a good sound. I'm hesitant to leave it on. Listen, that's not a good sound. Oh, now it's fine. It made a high-pitched noise before. Now it's not doing it. Do we have any video? We do. Vertical hold. Need to adjust that. Trying. There we go. Awesome. Why am I zoomed in so far? Get out there. Okay. KH position. Well, we need caps because there's something going on there. Vertical position. I got my trusty MK1 board here. The MK1, I say trusty, but what I mean to say is it works fine with the K7000 series, but anything else it likes to not sync very well. But well, we're gonna need caps because the image is wavy. Vertical position, vertical size. Well, it's working, but here's what it looks like. Oh yeah, doop, black bars. That is C57. That cap right there is usually the culprit of these black bars, and the left side of the screen is black. H hold we need to adjust. We'll adjust H hold and fix. I'm adjusting the H hold pot and it's doing nothing. See how that's... That's odd. We'll have to look into that. But I think we'll look into that after we cap it and see if it's still doing it. But we're out of focus, so let's adjust focus here if I can. That's good there. Nice. Well, it doesn't look half bad, actually. Of course, with it being dark and the fact that our hold isn't doing anything. Let's do black level all the way down, contrast all the way down. Fly back up until we get raster lines. I can't because it's got the stupid glue on it. Let me turn this off and break this glue loose here. Let's just see if I can turn it without moving the glue. Okay, there we go. Okay, all the way down. Back on. Now we'll turn it up until we get our raster lines, which are there. We can really see the bad C57 here. Look at that. Look at that. But regardless, we'll turn this back down until the raster lines just go away, right about there. Then we'll supplement black level and contrast, right about there. Black level down until the background is black. Well, I mean, look at that. Wow. If it wasn't for the, I mean, you can see the, I don't know, well, I don't know if you can, but the image is going like this. It's hard to tell on camera, but yeah, the whole image is wavy. Not this way, but like this, like there's a bad filter cap, but it's definitely caps in the power supply that's causing this. And I don't understand why the H hold pot is not doing anything. It's the right value, it's 10K, and it's in circuit, and I can turn it all I want to. It does absolutely nothing, nothing. That is unbelievably odd. Well, it could have damaged, it could have damaged Q9. Could have damaged Q9 by having it broken and trying to power it up. So anyway, you can really see how bad it is there. But let's go ahead, now that we know that it works and what the issues are, let's get it back off the tube, do the cap kit, investigate the H hold issue, and see if we can get this to work 100%. Okay, so full cap kit installed. Did not do the filter cap because I only changed the filter cap, like I say, if I don't change parts unless they need replaced. But obviously we know the caps needed replaced because we had the left side of the screen was black and darker than the rest, so we know the caps were bad. Again, that's usually always C57, but it could be C42 as well. Just depends on the situation, but yeah, most of the time it's C57. But anyway, full cap kit done. We already did the reflow and all that, so I have not turned it on after the cap kit and everything. We're going to share the knowledge together if that's good or not, if that solves our problem with the black side of the image. But I will say that the horizontal hold, I took the pot and tested it in circuit, and it was only 4.5K no matter which direction I went. All the way left, all the way right, moving it left and right, 4.5K solid, made no difference, no change on the reading. I know the pot was good because I took the pot out of circuit and checked it, and it went 0 to 10K and all that. So if you follow the leads or the traces from the pot, they go through a couple resistors, a couple jumpers, and end up here at IC2. So if you look here, I took IC2 out and put it in a socket. I took the chip out, put a socket in there, and put a replacement IC2 in there, and I got my horizontal hold back. Works perfect. All the way down, all the way up, it goes haywire. Horizontal hold works exactly as advertised with the replacement IC2 in there. You think, okay, IC2 was bad. But I was scratching my head because if IC2 is actually bad, you're going to have more issues than just horizontal hold problems. So I was skeptical. So I put the original IC2 back in, which is what's in there now, and it still works. H-hold works perfectly. So I think we simply had a bad solder joint on IC2. Now, normally IC2 is not something you have to reflow. And I looked at it, nothing was cracked or broken, but I think we just simply had a cold solder joint or a bad connection on that pin that feeds the IC2 from the horizontal hold. I think we just simply had a bad connection. Yeah, the original chip is in a socket, and now horizontal hold works fine. So I think we just had a bad connection. This is a very odd situation. I don't think I've ever come across that, but I think that's what happened. So anyway, after putting that in the socket, it now works fine. So we'll test horizontal hold on camera. We'll verify that we have a good solid image. There's not a black left side to it. So let's check it out here. Here we go. First power up after the cap kit and the rework on the IC2. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now my lawn guys are out there right now, so sorry about that, but okay. So it's still working, nothing blew up, and we have, looks like we have equal brightness. Let's turn up our screen voltage so we get our raster lines. There we go, and yes. Awesome. Okay, cap kit to the rescue. Let's turn this back down. Actually, you know what? Let's readjust all this now that we've got it all rebuilt. So black level down, contrast down, raster lines are up. Let's turn this down until the raster lines just go away, roughly there. And we're still a little too bright. We can see here, right there. All right. Now black level right there, contrast, we'll go right there, and I think that's good. So let's acknowledge this with our buttons and sweetness. Colors aren't perfect, of course, because they're all dead center, but nice, fantastic. So let's turn up our contrast slightly more, brightness a little bit. Okay, now let's do a little bit of color adjusting. Blue is too high. Green is too high. We'll turn the cutoffs down a bit and turn red up slightly. Okay, there we go. I think that's good. Oh my Lord, fantastic. Let's grab our controller here, give it a couple of credits. There we go. It's a little bit too blue in camera. In person, it's perfect, nice and non-too blue, if you will, but in camera it's a little bit more blue than it is in person, but fantastic. So now let's verify our horizontal hold. We can already tell that it's fixed, but if we adjust, now if we adjust the pot, we can see the, oh, there you go. Boop. Turn it all the way down, slightly back up, and as we see, it'll shifts the image left and right. So our horizontal hold is now working, and we have an equidistant image. Colors are good, no strange anomalies. Let's make sure that we can adjust our width. So we'll grab our width tool here and make sure that we can adjust our width. And Focus on that, will you? So I got the width tool in there, and we're gonna adjust our width here. And well, somebody has broken the ferrite core because this is just spinning in the core. Yep, somebody has broken the core. Oh well. Not the end of the world because we have some pretty good width as it is. So I'll call this a successful restoration here. I don't know why I've always got stuff on the camera here. Sorry about that, but there we go. Fantastic. Looks like we got some possible screen burn. So this section here is darker than the rest. I think this might be some screen burn down here. But in person, this looks absolutely perfect. Through the camera here, it looks a little bit more blue, like I said, but fantastic. Look at that. And it's nice and sharp. Nice and sharp. Nice and sharp. Okay, well, there you go. We had a bad solder joint on IC2, which was causing horizontal hold to not work. You know, I'm still skeptical, but, you know, it's working now, and that's the only thing I did, so that has to be what it was. We got the cap kit done because we had bad caps, a bad solder joint on IC2, a bunch of burned up bad pads, an out of tolerance R89, blown fuse, 2 bad diodes, D20, D21. What else? I'm sure there's some stuff I'm forgetting. You know, a lot of stuff was wrong with this, but anyway, successfully resurrected. So, oh, we had two broken pots, H-hold and V-hold. So what, 8 or 9 or 7 or 8 or 9 different things that were wrong with this. But after all the work, it's up and running. I'll let this run for a number of hours and do a little nice burn in, make sure no issues pop up. Otherwise, yeah, I appreciate it. So thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And there's a lot more on the way, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you then.